So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a free consultation booking on system.io. And it's really quite simple. You can use it for anything that is just requiring a free meeting, like a quote or a consultation, whatever have you. So easiest thing to start by, go to CRM and then start by going to availability. Don't start with the event. It's a lot easier if we start with availability. So you can see I already have a global availability set here, but you'd come into here and you would change these times. So I'm going to start working on Sundays. This first screen that pops up, system is changing this, but it doesn't mean anything. You click it and it'll actually let you choose the exact date and time that you want. So let's say on Sundays, I'll work a 3 p.m, say till 6 p.m. All right. And so this just makes it easier in terms of knowing, like, I'm always going to be available set times, right? And then it's also easier here if you actually have a date specific availability, like you can see here, if I just move my head out the way, date specific availability and availability. So it's just a lot easier to start with your global availability first. So in this section, I would suggest, if you know that you're going to work Monday to Fridays, it's easier to put that in. Or if you know that you're doing a special availability for a upcoming summit or a group talk that you're going to be free for, then just do a date specific one. But it's just a lot easier to start with availability first. And also as a bonus here is, like, if you do make it, so for my recent client, he's available weekends for car valeting services. He can then put his available times here and then stretch the calendar from like this year to next year, and then just add in his date specific unavailabilities for whether he has like holidays or time off with his family and friends and stuff like that. Once we have your availability set, there's also an option here to do slots. So I have this slot as an example, but I don't actually have this in my real availability. It's that if you know that you're going to be working like Monday to Friday, like a 9 till 5, you can at least then have a slot for lunch, for example. And this is just really like useful in that case. You could also use it as slots in terms of the slots you want to be available, like to the T, right? That way you won't have to use any buffer times. So you could actually make this like an hour-long slot from 8 till 5. And then when you get the event booking stage, we won't have to use a buffer time. So start with the availability, it's a lot easier, right? And then we go to events. So you can see I already have a free consultation here, but all you do is you click to create a new event. I'm going to name this as, say you're a web developer, so you want a free website audit. Okay, and it'll be with me as the host. It will last, let's say this is an event that will take an hour. And then where is this meeting going to take place? So we might have an online meeting, and you can link this up with your Zoom, but you could also use Google Meet. So this is really easy. If we just go on Google Meet now, so I'm already signed in, but all you have to do is click new meeting and then use it for a link where it says create a meeting for later. And then you just copy and paste this link, and then we'll paste this in here, and that's it. So that's how I have on my free consultation as well. Depending on your type of event, say you are a window cleaner, you might have a personal location set here and a phone number, and so that you'd be able to actually go to the client's address and then give them a free quote, for example. So this address is the one that it will show your address. So this address will show your address, and this will also show your phone number to the client. But it's also useful to let them know where like your home base is. Again, if you are a window cleaner or a plumber or something, you might have like a registered address for work, but you'd still then come out to the premises to actually give them a free quote. Then the description here, put exactly what it is that you're going to do. This is the description that gets sent in the email to the client. So we'll see that after, but say we're doing a website audit, we'll say we'll do SEO checklist, and we might even do alt image checkup. So these are what we'll do in the half hour. We'll just check the SEO. Maybe we'll see the headings, subheadings, and information architecture. And then we'll also check all the images for all images, all image text. And that's something that can be simply done in like a half an hour meeting, and it makes a huge difference in website development. And then after that, then we can choose our availability. So like I said, here makes it easier to do it for a global availability, unless you know for a specific event that it's a one-off event. Maybe there is a summit or a talk show or somewhere that you're hosting, or like a pop-up stand that you're going to be at for a weekend, then you can come straight into the event side of things and then set a availability based on that specific date. But again, for most, like say a free consultation, free quote, stuff like that, much easier to go for global. And then you just set the date. Now, this is the only tidbit, is it will only ever look like 30 days in advance. So best thing to do is say, check the date that it's on now, or the date that you want to start. So you want to start on the 29th actually. And then what I've done for my previous client is we just went ahead to the same time next year and then just dropped it in there. And then this way you can at least, like for example, if you're going to do this for a few months, like or the next year, you can do it this way. And then over time, and then anytime that you're not available, you just come to your global availability and set those specific dates. Again, especially if you have holidays booked in, for example, maybe July, you're going to be away for a few weeks, you can then set that up this way. So then those dates are automatically taken off. Otherwise, you have to just periodically remind yourself to come in here and make adjustments to the date range. Otherwise, after that date range surpasses, the booking calendar won't work. So once you have that, the next important thing realistically is the time increments. So this is how often you want someone to be able to make a booking. So if you have 30 minutes, it'll be every hour and every 30 minutes past the hour. So from 8:30, 9:30. Can change this as low as 5 minutes, as high as, and you can have a custom as well. The most used use case, I guess, would be 30 minutes. But again, it's entirely dependent to your industry, your niche, your service, your offer, everything like that. So again, let's say we can do it every 30 minutes. And then the daily limit is how many of these are you willing to take in a day. So for example, my previous client, he's only doing 3 or 4 valets per day. So in this case, say we're website auditing, we might be able to do, say, 5 in a day. And also this will just make it easier so that once those 5 are booked, that's it. And then they have to look for the next day. You can leave this empty as well if you like, but chances are it's good to have a limit. It's good to have, I would suggest using one or the other, just because if you put a buffer time of, say, 30 minutes before the event and a buffer time of 30 minutes after the event, where you say that you're available 8 till 9, you're actually only going to be able to take your first booking from 8:30, right? Because it's 30 minutes before like your available time. And then the next meeting afterwards, say it was an hour-long meeting, so you go 8:30 till 9:30, the next meeting will only be able to set another half hour after that, so 10, and then you'll have half hour after that meeting, so it would be 10:30. So you'd only be able to it would only ever show 8:30 and then every hour after that because you have a buffer time. So my suggestion for sure is just leave this at 5 minutes. Doesn't alter it if your increment is on 30 minutes or more or something. But the best thing is like just to keep it with the after. So for example, use like 15 or 10 minutes because it basically makes it an hour total of buffer time, half an hour before, half an hour after. So just be aware of that, but we'll be able to see how that looks when we actually go to test it, which is really a crucial step in this. So once we have all of this done, just behind my face here is the save and preview. So now this is what it's going to look like. And remember, you can't actually use this preview. This is just a window to show what it will look like. So once you X that off, the free website audit is now available. So now that's the booking calendar sorted, the availability, the event, the duration, everything. Now to make this available, you can drop it in a few places. You can drop it on your website on the blog section, but it's also easier and probably best advised to actually drop it on a funnel. So here's my current free consultation, but same thing, we just create a new. I'm going to make this a website audit, and then I'm going to make a custom because I'm going to start from scratch, and it's free. So it doesn't necessarily matter what the currency is, but there won't be any way to pay on there anyway. So now we can click on this funnel. We can add a step and we can call it the audit booking. We can actually specify that it's free as well. And again, I'm going to start from scratch because I prefer to use my own designs. And then we're going to just choose a sales page. Now, some of the other pages, the calendar does work for, but this changes periodically because system is still updating this calendar feature. To your best advice, just use a sales page or an opt-in page. I'd suggest the sales page, just a lot easier. It's right at the top. Choose that type. And then we go into edit this page. And then we just start with a blank page here. So right off the bat, we can just drop in calendar, which is just an element here in the form section. So you can just click it. And then here is where we select what event we're doing. So we're going to use the free website audit that I've just created, and you'll see it populate the event and it will show the available times. So you can customize these buttons here, but right now system doesn't allow for like really dialed in customization. So for example, you can't really change the button size here. I think you can I'm not even entirely sure you can change the colors that much. You can just change the background colors, you know, of like the slots and the availability and things. But over time, this will improve, but don't expect it to be like super on brand. Like it's just a plug and play calendar piece. So once that's there, like the thing that you can most alter would be the headlines for the buttons. So we can change the step 1 here. Maybe you can say, you know, choose your date. So we can just give them a bit more extra information to understand what they're doing here. And we can change the subheadlining here. So, you know, again, just say choose preferred, the time. And then the next step, again, we can change the button text, but we can't necessarily change the color or size just yet. Change the clock, 12-hour, 24-hour, the time format. And then we can click on the form here to be able to see what the next step will look like. So maybe in here, we'll just want to ask for but in here, we can actually change these and we can add more form fields here just using the form inputs from the form here. So you can drop something in like this, and you can make it a custom field. Maybe you want like, you know, neighborhood or something like that. So it's a lot easier it's very useful to be able to customize for exactly what you need. And so maybe for this one, for example, I won't need their mobile number for their website audit. I'll need their email, but maybe I won't need their last name, right? For example, so we can get rid of those. And then if you want to add a custom form field, this is done in the contacts page. So this is what the form will look like. And then on submit, we can then show the thank you page. Again, this cannot be altered just yet. You can add a headline and that will just simply go in here. So that will just simply go underneath, but you can't necessarily alter whether it's left aligned, right aligned, center aligned, anything like that. It's rather basic in what you can do. So in order to actually make this more useful for a client, for example, it might be worth adding in other elements. So we can add in other sections. So maybe you want to add in something like a heading and title, and maybe what do they expect on the booking. So I already have some of these already. So I can use a component that I pre-made, and I can say, I'm going to use a what to expect block here. And you can make this look however you like. Again, I'll move myself out of the way so you can read it a bit easier. But this just tells them what to expect. This could come before or after. We can actually just swap those around using the section. So you can just tell them what to expect on this meeting. So this is populated for my free consultation, and then they can have the booking afterwards. We can also add in like a heading and subtitle. Maybe we want to add in like a headline in here. We'll make it H1. Let's say book your free website audit. So this just gives them more information, lets them know what's happening. Again, use this tailored to your specific service or offer or need, and just make it deliver enough information for the client or customer to know what it is they're getting. So after we save the changes, we can preview this. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to view it from the funnel step here. So this is what it will look like on the internet. So it'll just have the heading, it will have the section of what to expect, and then it'll have the actual calendar. So let's say we're actually going to book it. We're going to test it out. So I want to be booked for the 3rd at 8 a.m. You can see all the options here. Choose next. And then I'm going to just enter in my name and my emails. So once I've added those in, I can see that I am now booked in. And then what we can then do is actually go check out what that looks like on our receiving end. So now this is what I receive as a submittee of the form. It's really cool because I use Google Meet. It's already going to ask me if I want to populate that into my calendar, which is really useful. And then it will show me the location, which is the Google Meet link that we have here. And they'll be able to reschedule. They can add to the calendar directly, or they can cancel it from here. And so when the meeting arrives, on the day of the meeting, System.io automatically sends out a 1-hour reminder of the event that's coming up. But again, in the instructions or the description, we can ask them to put in, so in the event description here, where it says what's going to happen, we could also ask them, you know, save this email, like favorite this email using one of these labels or something, so that it's easier for you to find on the day of the event, so that, you know, you can just click this link and then join. So now if I click this link, it'll also take me to a Google Meet window where I'll be able to join as a spectator. So from the CRM side of things here, we can then see on calendar, we can see bookings. And like I said, here's the one I did earlier, but we can see now, let's say schedule, just so it's easier to see what I'm working with. This is the one we just booked today. And from here, we can choose to reschedule or cancel it, right? There's the main things we can do here. But what we can also do to add on some extra like ability to this section, to this feature, is we can then use the pipelines. So we can use the pipeline where, meeting booked, we can go in here and we can look for the existing client and we can say, are we looking for myself, that, and I can save, and I can just add myself to the meeting booked section, refresh it so I can see. And then on the day of the meeting, once we actually have found out of the result of the audit, for example, I can come back to here and I can say, okay, this client, it was either we agreed on a deal or they weren't a good fit for us after running the audit, so we can run them here. And then we can later use these sections to actually send emails based on where these people fit. So if the deal was agreed, then we go on to maybe sending them add them to the campaign for onboarding or something. If they weren't a good fit, maybe we can add them to a campaign for our other software features or services. So this CRM is just really useful in that sense. Again, system will update in time, where I think we'll be able to have more pipelines. Right now it's a plural already, but we can only have one pipeline and you can edit it. So when you actually first load up your pipeline, this is what it'll look like. You can give it a name and you can give it the stages. But I think in due time, we will see multiple pipelines, which would actually be very useful for many people. So that's it. It's really simple. And then that's how you can now start take bookings on your website for events or, appointments, quotes, giving quotes or anything like that. And super straightforward, very useful for most service-based businesses and even like digital product businesses as well.